Well, hello there guys, welcome back to Doing It with Jason. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make drawers for undermount slides. This is a project I've been working on for a little bit here, and it is a bench seat. So it's going to have two drawers in it, and I'm going to be using the undermount drawer slide, just like this. I have links down in the description below of what slide and all that and where to get them. Now it's really tricky because you want to make sure your slide is capable of handling the drawer box thickness. So they do make two different kinds of undermount drawer slides. One is for 1/2 inch material or 5/8. So basically 5/8 and under, and one is for 3/4 inch material. So be sure I'm using the 1/2 inch for all my measurements I'm about to show you how to get, and the slide I'm using is for 1/2 inch material. And it should say it at the place you're purchasing the drawer slides of what material thickness. Now, let me show you. Okay, first you're gonna wanna take your opening measurement, and that's gonna be pretty much where the drawer is gonna be sitting in your cabinet. Ours is exactly 20 1/8 of an inch. So we're gonna have one drawer slide set up over here, and then one set up on the other side. Our opening is what we need for the measurements. We don't need to worry about our drawer slide at this time. It's very easy to just plug it in to a fraction calculator. Once again, one of my favorite calculators out there. It's free, and it's, you know, really handy. So I'm going to be putting in 20 1/8. And then now for my front of my drawer box, to get that measurement, I'm going to subtract, and this is my front and my rear of my drawer box, similar to the picture right here. So 20 1/8, I'm going to deduct 1 inch, which will be my two sides and my thicknesses of my material, which I'll have it all drawn out right here. And then 5/8 in total for the drawer slide. So it's 5/16 per side of the drawer, so total is 5/8. So I deduct that, and it's 18 1/2. So that is my drawer front and my drawer rear for my drawer box. When using the 5/8 inch slides, this is going to be the calculated formula you're going to use every time. You're going to subtract 1 and 5/8 if you put the drawer box together like so. So on both sides of my drawer, to figure out that measurement is all about what the drawer slide is. The drawer slide I'm using is 21 inches, so therefore my material is going to be 21 inches long. And also for the height, it's important that you take off minimum 1 inch of your opening. So this is 10 3/4. I'm going to go down to 9 3/4. You need to do that because of the drawer box sitting into the drawer slide. The way it sits, it bumps it up a little bit. So if you make it exactly the same size, you'll never fit that drawer in. So good rule of thumb, minimum 1 inch less than my height. Let's go cut out some material. Okay, so all of our parts are cut out. As you can see, I have way more than the amount needed for 2 drawers. I'm actually making 4 drawers total because I have 2 sets of bench seats, as you can see, standing right over there. So they're both for 2 different rooms, so they're slightly different sizes. So one set, these are my front and backs for one set, front and backs for the other set, and then this is all my sides, which are all the same. So I've got 8 of those, 4 of those, and 4 of those. So if you're making just 2 drawers, you would just need 4 of these, 4 of these. Or if you're making 1 drawer, you just need 2 and 2. So now we're ready to set up the dado, and I'll show you how I do that. All right, so for the dado, I use a really cool forest blade that I've got. I'll put a link down below. This comes in a 2-pack, and basically if you set them up a certain way, you get 3/8 of an inch dado, and then if you set them up the other way, you get 1/4 inch dado, and then if you just do one singular, you get a really popular, what I like to use it for is the 5.2 millimeter, 1/4 inch technically, that you can get at your big box stores. It's not quite a 1/4 inch, it's a little less, so the single one works really well for that because it's just under a hair of 1/4 by itself for the thickness of what it cuts, versus your standard blade, which is very, very tiny. I will set this blade up to cut right about half of the material away, about a heavy quarter. I like to do a little more to run my dado. So usually for that, I just set my board next to it and kind of just judge, you know, hey, that looks like a good height. A little over past center, and it won't go too high to make it weak, and just right. Now next, I set this up for a 1/2 inch, and then I use my tape measure for this because my fence is set up for a standard blade, not for this blade thickness, so you have to take that into account. You can't just be using your fence measurements and say, oh, hey, but as soon as you change the blade to a little thicker, it changes everything. So I'm gonna use my tape measure, set it up right at a 1/2 inch away, because you want it to be a 1/2 inch set, the dado right in here, and I'll show you right now. And there you go. Easy as that. Set up a 1/2 inch from the bottom. That'll be where I put my 1/4 inch bottoms into my drawers. So I'm gonna do this for all of them. Okay, so now all of our parts have dados in it. These are our front and back, and this is my left and right, my sides. So now an easy way I personally like to do is to cut off one of the dados completely on my back slide. This will help out in the end for when I'm trying to slip in my 1/4 inch, because I like to keep my bottom separate from my drawer box until it's all built and sprayed, because then after it's sprayed I can get a nice finish and just slip in the bottom into the drawer box. So all I do is I take one of the drawer boxes parts, which the back, so this will be the one I'm going to use for my back. I then set up the blade to just cut off the dado. And simple as that. So now when it lines up, it will leave me a spot to slip in the back, the 1/4 inch, and then I'll just staple it to the bottom, which I'll show you when I put it all together. This also allows for the Undermount drawer slides to easily be installed versus having to cut out notches and all that good stuff. So let's get to building them. Okay guys, we are ready to assemble our drawer box. Now this is just a sheet of plywood I had lying around. I'm using this as a flat, kind of perfect table. My table's a little messy and just not quite, you know, it's a workhorse, so it gets beaten up a little bit. So I recommend the way I put it together to use a nice flat surface. It's gonna help a whole lot. So now, we have our sides of the drawer box right here, and we put the dados. I like to set it up like this, you know, dados facing in each way, because we'll be assembling it, you know, like so. So then I'm gonna put those there, and then I've got my front piece and my back piece. Now my back piece is the one that we cut the dado off, so that way I know, you know, hey, that's the back. The front has a dado. We cut the back off, the bottom off of this one, because we'll be slipping in our 1/4 inch bottom. So now, all you have to do is get some glue. I use the Type On 3 as always, which the link is down below. And then I will put the glue, try not to get it into the dado. You want to keep that nice and clean, but I like getting the little bottom section here, even though I won't be putting a nail right there. It just really helps out. And then what I like to do to make it a little easier, you don't have to, but I glue both sides up at the same time. That way I can, you know, not have to move the drawer around too much while the nails are holding it and setting the glue. Because the way I do it, you do not need any kind of clamps or anything. You just have to be real careful and set it aside. Try not to rack it or anything crazy like that while it's drying, because that's key. The glue is what's going to be holding this bad boy together pretty well. So now we will just line these up. Take my side. The dados will automatically line up as long as you cut everything nice and evenly, and you have something like this on a nice clean table. Now we're just using the 18 gauge nailer, brad nailer, which I have a link down below. I also have a link for the actual cordless version as well, because it is really cool. I got to use one a while back, same brand, and it is really awesome. As far as you do not need a air compressor, which that's a helpful thing right there. Now the cordless one is a little more expensive, but when you add up an air compressor and all that good stuff, it's worth it if you don't have an air compressor, if you don't plan on getting one anytime soon. The cordless is pretty awesome. You don't need any air hoses, it's nice. But this one I use it so much, As soon as it dies, I will be buying the cordless one, just because it'll be so much easier for installs. I won't need to drag around my mini compressor and all that good stuff. Okay, so now we have this all set up just like so. And now the key of what I do here that works out really well is this bottom one. Instead of just putting it on and having to float it because it's going above the dados and it will have nothing to rest on, you just flip the drawer front or the drawer box over. Okay, so now I'm going to set it over here so you can kind of see it. So now it's flipped over. The dados are now up top, which means I'll be just laying this down flat with the top of the drawer and getting the dado out of the equation, making it so much easier to nail together. So now same thing, I'm just going to run my glue on both sides. And of course I always like to wipe it in. It helps tremendously for the joinery and everything. And this isn't a dovetail drawer by any means or anything like that. It's just a standard old drawer box which works really well. Dado, you don't have to have dovetail drawers for everything. Especially using the Undermount drawer slides, because the Undermount drawer slides hold all the weight underneath the drawer, which I'll show you that later as well. And really, all the strength is in the drawer slide itself, not in the drawer nowadays, which is really nice. I mean, dovetails are nice and they have their place and everything, but not necessary. And then I'm just putting a few nails in each side, and that's going to hold it and until the glue dries, and these will be rock solid. I've been building them this way for like 12 years. I've never had any issues or anything like that. So now when it's all done, you just set it aside, leave it there, let it dry, and then we'll fill the nail holes. Okay, here's the box all ready to rock and roll. We're ready to put our drawer bottoms in. Spraying them separately helps so much. Basically slipping it in like so. Sometimes you need to tap it in a little bit, maybe push it if it's a little bowed. It's only 1/4 of an inch material. So then after you tap it in a little bit, you're going to use a narrow crown stapler right here. I'll have a link down below of where it is. And it just shoots some nice, I think I use 5/8 inch staples for this. Just pop a few in on the bottom. It holds up really, really well. You'll be surprised. And then the drawer slide itself is going to actually hold as well along the sides of the bottom. So after you tap that in there, you check it out and you say, man, that looks great. So now we're ready to drill our holes in the back of the drawer box, and that is with this nice little jig. I have a link for that as well. You could also do some measuring and do this by hand. I believe it's a 6 millimeter bit. For the drill, but this one comes with a nice little stopper. It's got these little grooves that you bump it right to the side, boom, and you start drilling it right in. Here are the front clips. They have a left and a right. These have all kinds of movement on them. You can go left, right, in, out, you name it. You just pretty much hook them in with the screws into the drawer bottom, and they will snap together like I will show you right now.